How you doing, y'all? Welcome to Confidence. Your boy is definitely feeling better. I'm leaning in to this new self that I'm creating, and I'm fucking loving it. And that's what's going to be the theme of the podcast today. We're going to be talking about moving forward, how to do it without the guilt. I posted a story and I was talking about how I read this crazy shit that blew my mind. I'm going to share with you kind of just my feelings and thoughts or what I read. And it's about how to refocus your thinking. And it really, honestly, it was great for me. And then we have two audience questions today. One is going to be about someone asked about losing everything and starting over. I think it's a great theme of, kind of what I'm going through as well. And then we also have a question centered around a guy that is a great guy. She went on a couple dates, but she's not feeling a spark. And she's kind of wondering, okay, how long do I give this situation? So we're going to get into that towards the end of the podcast. But for right now, let's kind of talk about the state of the state. So last podcast, I kind of reflected on all the lessons that I learned over the few weeks. Obviously I experienced this heartbreak and this pain. And it's really helped me to rethink a lot of things, right? The way that I'm showing up in relationships. And, with that, I will say over the last few weeks, here's the thing. When you go through some sort of heartbreak or somebody doesn't show up for you or tells you they don't love you, whatever it is, it's really difficult time. And not just because it's painful that somebody's telling you that. Of course, you're losing that person, right? For me, it's a person I'm talking to every single day, right? And then you go to not talk to them at all. It's tough just in that way. But I honestly think that the hardest part of getting over something, right, a bad situation, is the guilt that you hold on to about what you should have, could have done better. And that's kind of what I feel like has happened over the last few weeks. It's kind of felt like, I'm doing all this learning and I'm recognizing my patterns and I'm like, oh, fuck, that's where I fucked up. Or, hey, I was a little narcissistic there. We're going to talk about a little narcissism in a second. But with that being said, it's hard because what it makes you feel and think is that there is just almost there's something wrong with you, right? That, oh my God, if you just would have done this thing, then the relationship would have worked out. But that's the thing too. It's and something I've been really trying to hone in and learn and focus on is this. The reality is in every relationship, both people are flawed. You both are imperfect. You both have traumatic things that has happened to you in your past, your childhood, however you're raised, the ways that you show up in relationships, the triggers that you guys have. It's not just one-sided. And it's very easy to feel that way when you're the person that quote unquote gets left, right? Because you almost feel like you did something wrong to cause this situation. And I help a lot of coaches with this too. I have some coaches, I think this week, came to me and she was like, I was so avoidant and then he ghosted me. And I'm just like, why did I do that? I should have done this, and this. I feel like it would have worked out. But what you're missing is this, yes, it's great to reflect and it's great to learn. And we're going to talk about some additional things that I've reflected on myself. The key is that if somebody genuinely cares about you, right? And it makes actual sense, they're going to love you and appreciate you through your imperfections and through your flaws. We all have them. It's not just you that has the issue, right? And for me in particular, right, I came on here, I was talking about how I wasn't selfless and, I could have done all these other things and I, was holding on to too much control of the relationship. But the reality is that if we were a better match or maybe in a better situation, I truly believe that that person would be able to overcome those flaws. I think that's what a relationship really is at the end of the day. You're going to hurt each other. You guys are both going to do fucked up shit. I had a coaching call today, and they're in this relationship that they've had for a really long time. And the problem is that they have is he has a tendency to say avoidant things, talking about how men need variety and, all these different things. And she's a little bit more of the anxious type, right? She, makes these comments to him. She got drunk and made this comment to him oh, why are you taking this trip? Are you going to go fuck other girls? I mean, it's the typical guy-girl banter. You know what I'm saying? But with that being said, they have these fights, and the problem is what happens. They feel unsafe, right? My coachee, she feels unsafe, right? He makes these comments to her that make her feel, ooh, does he care about me? Is he going to continue to show up for me? But that's what a relationship is. It's you guys have to constantly, as best you can, create safety and create commitment. And when you truly have a great relationship, it's not that you're going to avoid those problems. It's not that you're not going to have issues and conflict. It's, can you create a space where you know that person's not going to run away even when shit gets hard? And are you going to be able to be in alignment with their flaws, right? Can you accept that person for their imperfections? And that's something that I recognized, even in my situation. I'm like, you know what? I didn't really show up the best. I definitely was selfish at times. I made some mistakes for sure. No doubt. I was self-centered. But when you look back at it, first off, there's flaws on her end of things that have happened. But the reality is the right person where it's the actual right situation, when I come back to that person, if it's truly meant to be and my trigger is not triggering them to the point where they can't stand it, they're going to continue to show up for me. They are going to love me through my imperfections. I do still deserve love just as much, even if it feels in this moment like I don't. And I guess that's what I'm trying to tell you is that when you start getting into that, like, oh man, I could have did this better, should have did this better, what happens? The guilt starts to mount. You start to feel like the problem. And the problem is you can't actually move forward and be loved by somebody else because you feel that you are the problem. And what I'm trying to tell you is that if you're going through a separation, it's not just you. Whatever their flaws are, apparently it was too much or they could not handle the ways that you were flawed. And that's okay. Sometimes in relationships, you really aren't a good match, right? And sometimes I look back at my situation and I'm like, yo, let's be real. There were a lot of times where, I'm sensationalizing how great it really was. We were triggering the fuck out of each other. The needs that I wanted were not getting met. The needs that she needed were not getting met. And there's a reason we're in this position in the first place. And it's not just me being selfish. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm trying to tell you as a listener too. It's like the reason that your relationships did not work out is not just because you are inadequate or not enough. Now, don't get me wrong. You got to work on your shit. That's the only way you're going to get a great relationship. And we're going to talk about that, right? Because the reality is this situation, the best way to move forward is this. You got to learn. You got to get better. You got to look at the shit that you did not do right. Why did this not work from my end? Without the guilt. That's the key. The key is to say, hey, listen, I'm imperfect. I have flaws. I did the best I could with the situation that I was in. And I want to get better for the next one. I want to get better for the next opportunity. It's not that I'm not lovable. It's not that I'm broken. It's not that I'm not worthy, right? It's I need to find somebody that's more in alignment with me and also accepts me for the flaws that I have. And beyond that, I want to work on my shit to the point that I minimize those flaws, right? I work on my weaknesses. I work on the ways that I'm relating to people so that I can craft a beautiful, amazing relationship. So that's kind of where I've been at, which is like, okay, now that I took a step back from it, I've accepted where I'm at. I'm like, all right, cool. We are not in the place to be in a relationship. We're far as fuck. We're clearly, there is something not working between us. We don't even need to name what it is, but what are the things that Chris can do better to move forward, and really get a great relationship? And so one thing I was like reading and something that blew my mind. Okay, this was the thing that fucking blew my fucking mind, right? So obviously I was like sitting there. I've been so distraught. Like obviously again, it was hard because here's the other thing too. When you're going through like a heartbreak situation, you can know that you have the flaws between you, right? I understand that there were things that were not in alignment, but when you still have love for somebody, you still have love for somebody. It doesn't matter. And that's the really, confusing thing about it. And I think the thing that your mind will constantly wrestle you about is like, I know that things weren't right. I know that things were in alignment, but I still care. And I still want to make things work. And I think that's what happens is when you're the person that wants to continue to make things work and then they don't, that's where it's hard. Because that's where you start to feel like shit. Because you're like, I would have been willing to try to manage those flaws or go above your imperfections and my imperfections to try to create that safety, to try to create a great relationship. But the reality is it's just going to take time for that to, slowly trickle away. But in the meantime, it's time to look forward. It's time to try to move your mindset away from that. And this is something, so I was reading a lot about consciousness, right? And consciousness is the ability for your brain or your mind for you to be in control of your attention, right? What do you give attention to in your life? That's pretty much what consciousness is, right? Your body is taking in all these sensations, all these feelings, all these things are coming to you, right? And what your job is, or I think as you get older, you want to learn to be in more control of your attention, of the way that you're showing up for yourself and for your life. And so I read something really fucking interesting about consciousness. And there's two types to me of flawed attention. And it's when you're self-centered, right? Self-centered is, how does this value me, right? If you're constantly thinking to yourself of everything that you do in your life, of how does this value me? For instance, I'm really big. This is, again, where I really needed to learn. I'm very self-centered. Everything that I do, I almost look at it like a means to an end, right? Oh, okay, I don't want to go to that concert. Is it going to get me further in my business? I even are looking at my relationships, right? I'm protecting myself. I'm almost looking at the relationship as like, what can this relationship do for me? Instead of saying to myself, oh, wow, I just value this relationship or this person just because they're them. Do you understand the difference between having a self-centered focus and, again, just focusing on the actual beauty of the thing itself? And then the other way that you can have rigid attention is being self-conscious, is you're constantly worried about what other people think about you. So do you understand how that takes you away from getting lost in an activity or bringing your attention to the things that truly matter to you? And that's what I realized. And this is the thing I wrote down. It's difficult to get lost in an activity if all you are worried about is yourself or how other people are going to perceive you. It's very difficult to focus on a flower, right? Let's say you're just sitting in nature, right? And the beautiful sunset. It's pretty hard to focus on that when all you're thinking about is, how does this value me? Or what did I say at the party? Or what the fuck, what does this person think about me? And I recognize that through this, event happening to me, right? Where I tried to get her back and then she essentially said, fuck this, we're not hanging out anymore. It destroyed me, right? And what I read was, a narcissistic individual is always concerned with protecting the self, right? So you fall apart when external conditions get threatening. And that's what I'm recognizing about myself, right? Is that if I have just such a self-centered approach, if everything is about Chris and I have no interest in the world, you can become very isolated into yourself and into your feelings and protecting yourself from the world instead of taking your attention and focusing it on the things that matter, the outside world, or things that are not yourself. If you're so protective of yourself, here's the problem. We just talked about how human beings are imperfect, right? I'm not a perfect person. So what happens is you show up, you aren't perfect because you can't be, because you're a human being. And the problem is if all of your attention is concerned with how things are how things are going to affect you or how other people are going to perceive you, what's going to happen when shit does hit the fan or things don't go right because you're not perfect? You then lose yourself. You lose your mind because all you're doing is trying to fix yourself instead of being like, okay, you know what? I'm imperfect. I got to be more indifferent towards myself. And I guess that's what I'm trying to say. In a weird way, this is all about self-acceptance. In some sort of way, it's all about saying, wow, I don't have as much control as I think I do. And instead of just trying to control myself and control the environment around me and always constantly trying to protect myself from people's opinions or always trying to see how things value me, maybe I should just experience life. Maybe I should just enjoy the things that are in front of me, because that's actually when we're at our best. You want to make progress in life? You actually want to feel fulfilled and happy? What you really need to do is stop putting so much attention on yourself and start putting attention on the world, or people you find really interesting, or a piece of work, or knowledge, or education. Because that's actually what's going to put you into a flow state. And easily you can get wrapped up within yourself, and again, isolating yourself and then feeling like shit. This is why, quote unquote, narcissistic individuals, and that's what I'm trying to say. I have a new therapist this week as well. And that's what we were kind of talking about, how like my life in some sort of way, like I have to be kind of narcissistic to do some of this work, right? I have confidence, Chris, you know what I'm saying? And to get to the height that I have there does need to be this insane focus within yourself and how things do value you, right? It's the only way to really grow. But with that being said, think about it. The external events in my life, the relationships, I'm not generating value just from the relationship itself, right? I'm not sitting here being like, wow, I love this person just to love them. It's almost like, how does this person's like presence in my life make me better or affect me, right? How does this action that I'm taking affect me? And you could live a very isolating life like that. And you lose control, because the reality is you can't. I can't control other people. I can't control the outside circumstances. And then when you, as a human, show up imperfect or things fucking happen, you get destroyed. Because again, your focus is solely on yourself. Now, if I focused on, okay, if I was just helping people and reading a book just to read a book, or being in this relationship just to love this person, number one, I'd probably have better results. But number two, I wouldn't be so concerned with how it affects me. And when bad things do happen, or when I do make mistakes, I probably wouldn't be so hard on myself. And this is all what I'm talking about in terms of moving forward and learning from this situation. I'm like, whoa, like, and here's what's crazy about this is too, if I didn't go through this breakup, right, I would have never met, so I actually went to the bookstore with my friend that's a girl, and I would have never met her or took the risk to hang out with her and go find this book. And she's the one who picked it out just randomly. And it's just like crazy how life works like that. I'm like, wow, this situation really shined a massive light on how I'm operating in the world, and recognizing, and again, it's just almost like a piggyback off the last episode where I was talking about being more selfless. It's even deeper than that. I've recognized it's like, yes, I need to be selfless, but what I really need to do is start valuing things that are not just me, and protecting myself and protecting my image or my ego, and just enjoy the experience. Because to be honest, I think about this a lot. I'm like, what is really the point? You know what I'm saying? Of doing all these great things. Like, it can't be just for you to be rich or famous. There needs to be a goal that is actually outside of yourself. Because when you make the goal yourself, when you make the goal, oh, I need more money for me, or I need more fame for me, you will easily get thrown around and thrashed around, because you don't control that. The only thing that you can control is the actual process. And I guess that's what we, again, what I want to share with you and what I'm learning, right, is stop making the focus so much of you, right? I think we're all narcissistic in our own ways. I'm sure you guys relate to that. And again, whether you're not self-centered, you might not be very self-centered where you're asking yourself, oh, how does this value me? How does this value me? Maybe you're really self-conscious. Maybe you're always asking yourself, oh, how did I come off to that person? Or how did that person perceive me? If that is the stream of thought that's going in your head all day long, what is happening is you are not putting enough focus into the activities of the actual world. You're not valuing enough the experience of the things that are happening around you. It's almost like this idea of just really living in the present. And just setting goals for yourself. Like, there still needs to be that aspect of things. It's not that you just are going to live willy-nilly and you're just like in the flowers, you know what I'm saying? Just like looking at shit. No, you still set goals. But again, what you do is you make the goal something that is outside of yourself, not about you getting further in life, right? My goal needs to convert to, how can I be in service to other people, right? How in my next relationship can I just show up selfless? How can I show up in that relationship and say, the only goal for me in this relationship is for me to love you. I'm going to love myself, of course, too. We got to have boundaries, not that. But do you get what I'm saying? It needs to be that way. It needs to be, the focus needs to stay away from just yourself and your ego. With that being said, somebody asked me, right? So this is the segue. There's actually two questions. So I put up a questions box on Instagram. And by the way, if you guys are going to send me your situations or your questions, just make sure to keep it brief. Like, a lot of y'all will send me a situation. I'm like, I can't read an essay on a podcast. You know what I'm saying? The audience isn't going to be able to follow all the I know you want to tell me all the details, but you know what I'm saying? A few sentences, describe what's going on. It makes it a lot easier. But this person, to that degree, I don't know what was happening. I put the question box. I'm like, hey, if you guys got questions or things you want me to talk about in the podcast, this one person wrote, relationship, what do I do? What? Just relationship, period. What do I do? To answer that question, I say, follow your heart. Follow your heart. That's all I got for you. Because to be honest, there's nothing more. All right. But the other question is this. When you lose everything, how do you wrap your head around getting it back if you have no support system? Start where? I love this question. Now, because here's the thing. I relate to you a lot. Because here's the thing. I do feel in a way like I am starting over. It does kind of feel like this phoenix moment. Like I have burned to the ashes and now I am rising again. But one thing I will say is I don't feel like I've lost everything, right? I've got a great support system of friends. I had a lot of people that really helped me and reached out to me, therapists, things I was able to lean on, my family. So I think that's the biggest place to start. I know that you're saying you've lost everything. I don't know what that really means, but I would say the first place you got to do is just get some support. Just get some support. Whether it's a friend, whether it's a coach, whether it's a therapist, a family member, there just needs to be a little bit of dialogue for you to reflect and get that energy out. Honestly, that's really the biggest thing. But when you've lost everything, and honestly, it's funny because I help a lot of my coachees with this, but I think what happens is when you lose a relationship or you quote unquote lose everything, I think one of the biggest things I realized is this: no one is coming to save you. No one is coming to save you from your misery. No one is coming to save you from your flaws. And, in a lot of ways, this relationship that I was just in, right? I think the reason that I even went back and made that phone call in the first place after, me and her both knew we were hitting the fucking end, right? Like we were going no contact every 2 weeks. I think the reason that I went back was out of fear. Genuinely. I wanted to be saved by her in that moment. I didn't feel good about myself. I didn't feel good about what I was doing. I felt lost. And what I do is I reached out and I said, I love you. I miss you. I need you. But again, what was it? Honestly, it was a selfish thing. Honestly, it's weird. It was selfish for me to go and make that call because the truth was we weren't in the same spot. We've talked about it numerous times. We're not in a position to make this situation grow. But I was just so in fear, and I came from a place, again, of lack, that what it did is it made me face that. It made me face that. And I guess that's what I'm trying to say is that I feel like I was looking for this relationship and her to save me from my life. Oh, I'm going to move to New York. Why? We hadn't established anything. We were obviously within turmoil. It's because, to be honest, I didn't feel good about my life right now. In that current moment, I wasn't feeling good about myself. My videos weren't doing well. And again, it goes back to the self-centeredness and the self-consciousness. I'm realizing I'm like, oh shit, I'm not getting the value or the attention that I want, right? Oh my, the things that I really care about aren't going that great. I had no actual value in things outside of me doing well. So when my stuff wasn't doing well, what did I do? I reached for my comfort source. I reached for a hand and I said, save me, please, from my misery. And I think that's what you need to recognize is when that person leaves you or they lose you, then you got to face it. You got to face it head on. And that's what really happened over those last 2 weeks. I faced it. I said, damn, I've been using people. I have been selfish. And there's a reason I'm sitting in this position right now. I don't truly feel good about myself. I don't truly feel in flow with myself, honestly. I think that's really what it comes down to. And I that's why I say I relate a lot to this question of like losing everything. Because in some ways, I didn't feel like I had much, even though, again, when you look around, there's so much to be grateful for. But this is where it's really important, right? So this is how, to me, we start over, is we look at the places that we aren't doing well. You want to start over? Where are the lessons that you could learn from what you just did? I don't know what happened to you when you said you lost everything, I would assume that it meant a relationship, or I'm not sure if it's a job or whatever. But the key is you just got to start small, and you got to accept yourself in the moment. So, right, what we've been talking about, right? Relinquishing the guilt, remembering that you have value, remembering that you're lovable, and start rebuilding. For me, it was like, okay, what did I lose with this relationship? I lost security. I lost love. I lost companionship. And what I recognized is I wasn't getting enough of that for myself. So what you really need to do, first thing, is you need to look at what are your needs that are not getting met, and you got to start meeting them for yourself. That is step number one. Analyze the field and say, okay, what do I really need as a human being? What makes me feel good? And again, like I said, for me, it was, damn, I really wanted that companionship. I want love. I want relationships, because that was the part that was missing for me. So what do I need to do? I need to create that for myself. How do I do that? Start taking some risks. I got to start making some more friends. I got to start creating a beautiful life for myself. I got to create a life for myself that is so happy and fulfilled and full that I'm not relying on just one person or a relationship to save me from my misery. And that's the truth for most of us, is the reason that you're feeling so, discombobulated or, fucking down is because, to be honest, you're not happy within yourself. You're not happy within your own life. And again, you have to rebuild, but it takes time and it's slow. And that's what I'm trying to tell you too. It's like, I can't just shit out love and companionship and friendship in 2 weeks. But what did I do? I hit up, a random person. I was like, hey, listen, yo, we should go chill. Let's hang out. I hit up another one of my guy friends. Yo, let's go to the river this weekend. My other close friends, yo, let's get together. Let's start doing stuff. And honestly, this is the type of things and activities that I was not doing because I was holding on to this long distance relationship. She was providing that for me. And again, I wasn't utilizing the relationship as, oh, I love you and I'm giving love to you and I'm here because I care about you. I was using the relationship. The relationship was fulfilling a need for me, and that's all it was. And I'm sure it was the same for her in some ways. And she's got to think about that for herself. But my whole point is, you got to look at the places where you're not feeling fulfilled and sufficient. And the other thing for me too was, I recognized that I was getting a lot of my self-worth from my work, right? And also from her too. Again, my needs, right? Because that's what we're talking about. How do we get our worthiness? Our worthiness usually comes from us feeling like we can get our needs met. And again, if you have a self-centered approach or a self-conscious approach, and you're constantly worried about how people feel about you, or it's all about you, I think the problem becomes when those external circumstances don't line up, you fucking crumble. You crumble. So when somebody does leave you, it's tragic. When you do lose your job, you're done, because it's almost like that's all you're getting your value from. So I think in this situation, again, identify the things that you care about. So again, for me, I was getting a lot of my worthiness from work. I'm like, all right, how do I change this? I got to start getting value from things that are not just my work or the numbers. My work is flourishing. Don't get me wrong. Crushing it. That part is great. In the sense of income, but in the sense of what I really care about, which is views and numbers and followers. And again, more self-centered shit. It hadn't been going well, but I'm too attached to it. I'm focusing on myself and not focusing on the process and the love of the game. And that's what I recognize too, is right now, when you're starting over, you can't look at the final product. You got to stop looking at the results. You got to stop looking at where you're at. You got to accept yourself for where you're at in this fucking moment and start falling in love with the process of things. For me, it's how do I fall in love with the work again? Why did I even start making content in the first place? I started making content in the first place because I just fucking love to do it. Why am I not making videos just to make videos? And do you see where I'm telling you that the consciousness needs to shift from how does this value me, or how could I get more views, to how can I just enjoy making a piece of artwork? How they take it, who gives a fuck? Same thing with the relationship. How can I show up in this relationship and just be loving to this person and actually genuinely care? The results of it, who fucking cares? You know what I'm saying? If we go the distance, great. If we don't, that's out of my control. And then on top of that, try to get your worthiness from other things outside of just those two things, right? You got to have a more fulfilling life. Can you enjoy just taking a shit? Can you enjoy just eating a meal and actually eating it and tasting it and be like, whoa, fire? You know what I'm saying? What you focus on is so critical. When you can just get joy from the little things, that is when your life starts to get better. But again, also, that's also how you build another beautiful life. You want to build another beautiful relationship. For me, right? How do I do that? Okay, this time around, how do I show up differently? All right, I just got to focus on friendship. I just got to focus on giving love and enjoying the moment with this person. Not thinking to myself, how is this going to get me to my end goal? My joy is not coming from the results that I'm getting from the relationship or from work. It's just coming from showing up. It's just coming from being present with that person. So when you've lost everything, analyze the things that you need and start finding joy within finding those things. If it's friendships, if you need more love and companionship in your life and you're on your own, I actually would advise you not to just jump into another relationship. For me, I'm taking my time. I'm not just fucking jumping into some other bullshit. Fuck no. I want to build some friendships. I want to build my life up. I want to get comfortable with my process again. I want to fall in love with my work again. I want to fall in love with my friends again. I want to fall in love with my family again. Why haven't I taken a family vacation? Because there's no value to my work with a family vacation. That's probably the truth. Why hadn't I gone and seen this girl? Because it would have taken me away from my work. What's the value in that for me? Do you see what I'm saying? This is where I think for a lot of us, and I know you guys relate to me because, you know, human beings, these personal feelings, I know that they relate to you. I know they do. Because we're all on our way growing and learning, but I all know that we all think about ourselves a lot. And I hope this is a great reminder for you to fall in love with the little things, the process, and again, starting small. So again, back to the last thing I'm going to say on this is, if you've lost everything, again, focus on the little things. Just focus on hanging out with a friend. Just focus on building a couple friendships, right? To get that love and companionship back into your life that isn't reliant on a romantic connection. You're going to have to get back into a romantic connection and take some risks eventually, but get to a place where you feel stable within your own self. If you've lost work, start sending in applications. Start looking up and Googling things. What am I really passionate about? What do I really care about? And just start digging. And again, find the joy in that. Find the joy in the process of unfolding your life. Find joy in the experience of you rebuilding. And I guarantee you, if you do that, and this is what I've been really focusing on lately, I have been feeling so much better. My results have been better. I'm starting to realize, I'm like, whoa, I do got friends. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, whoa, I'm actually pretty happy right now. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, whoa, holy shit. I'm hanging out with these guys on Saturday. I have another plan tonight. You know, I've got really close friends. My business is going well. My videos are doing better because I'm just focused on making a funny video instead of saying to myself, oh, how does this where's this going to go? So fall in love with the process. You want to start over. You want to rebuild everything. Identify your needs. Write out your needs on a piece of paper. I want love. I want companionship. I want money, whatever it is. And then just start making little goals. All right, DM stranger to set up a lunch. You want to have good friendships? Yo, go through your Instagram. There's definitely people on there that are acquaintances. There's somebody at the gym that you've seen that you feel like you would vibe. DM them. Yo, you want to go to lunch? My whole point is it's all in your hands too. You got to take responsibility though. You can't have this victim mindset of like, woe is me. Like, oh my God, I can't believe, they would do this to me. They're not responsible for the way that you feel. You're responsible for the way that you feel. You're responsible for your life. I'm going to repeat it again. No one's coming to save you from your misery. So I think that's what it is. Reframe yourself, find the things that you need, make some goals, start taking some action, fall in love with the process and with the actions of those things, and watch your world change dramatically. All right. So we're going to shift gears right now, and we are going to talk about this situation with there's a great guy, but there was no spark or some shit. I don't fucking know. All right. So this girl said, I'm not going to name her name. She said, I've gone on a couple dates with a guy that seems like everything I want on paper. He's kind, smart, attractive, successful, same values, and so far, great with communication. However, I'm not feeling the immediate spark. I know from the past that really crazy sparks have always ended up toxic. So I'm trying to give him a chance to see if maybe my feelings will grow. What's a good timeline or number of dates I should give him to see if there's more? I want to be mindful of both our feelings and time. Love that. So, you're being really sweet by saying you're being mindful of his and your time. But here's, I think, the answer. I don't think that there's a specific number of dates to give somebody that you don't have a spark with. I think so let's talk about making good decisions, in general. My whole thing is when I'm working with my coachees, what I really want to see is I don't want them to make a decision on a certain person unless they are certain of the decision. Right? So I want you to wait until you know whether or not either way it's a yes or a no. If you are still in a period where you are uncertain or unsure, it's easy to make a reaction. And that's one thing I'm also learning about myself as well. I'm very reactive and very impulsive. One thing I need to work on in general is I'm a speed demon, right? If I have a certain feeling or I get the ick really quick or we have a bad day, part of my avoidance is I want to just be like, all right, I'm done. This is too much. Or, hey, it's distracting me from me. Again, it's all self-centeredness, right? And what you really need to do is just take a moment to gather more information or see how you feel over a little bit of time. And I think in this particular situation, it really relates, right? Where you're like, okay, I'm not feeling a spark, but I don't want to waste his time. I don't want to waste my time. But here's my thing. I don't think that you're wasting time by spending time with somebody and getting to know them. That's not wasting time. You're having fun. You should just be enjoying the process, right? Enjoying the process of it. It's not a waste of time to enjoy that and figure out what you want. Because here's two things, right? Let's say you keep going on dates with him. In one direction, it could go, wow, actually, he's showing more sides of himself and I am starting to find him more attractive. Or the other way around, right? Hey, I'm spending more time with him, and the more I spend time with him, the more I recognize, this isn't really it. I don't really love it. And I will say this, I think most people in dating are not. I feel like most people in dating are impatient rather than patient. I see it way more on that side. The only time I see patience in the wrong way is like a woman that is giving a guy or somebody way too many fucking chances. That's the only time I see patience. But in this particular situation, I feel like you would have impatience if you just said, fuck it, he's not it. Because here's the other thing too. I don't know how early it is in the dating process, but the other thing that you could be doing is if you guys are not committed to each other, you can keep your options open. I have one coachee right now. She's dating two guys, and we always refer to them as guy number one and guy number two. And here's what's interesting, right? So I'm going to give you a little scenario. So her guy number one, she initially has been a little turned off by, right? There's a couple things that she just didn't like. He's a little like fake machismo. He kind of always tries to act hard and that he doesn't need her. And he makes these comments, but he does a really good job at work and he's really responsible and he's a lot of other decent qualities. Now, guy number two, she had such a spark with him. She felt so comfortable. They talk on the phone all the time. Both of these guys actually are about an hour away from her. And, obviously when we're talking, she's like, I don't even know what I'm doing with guy number one. What's the point? I just feel like there's things about him that I don't really like. And I'd ask her, I said, are you 100% sure? Are you at a place where you're that he's not, I'm not really sure. There's just little things that bug me and bother me a little bit. Now, you still have to pay attention to those things because there's one other thing too about guy number one. He always kind of makes these physical, sexual comments. And she doesn't really like that because this girl that I'm working with, she wants to be loved for who she is. I mean, every fucking girl. I mean, everybody, right? So she's very turned off by guys that approach in a very physical, making those kind of comments kind of way. So she's been a little turned off by guy number one. So I always ask her, I'm like, it seems like you're holding on to this for what reason? Why? Well, he's still within my non-negotiables. There's just certain things I'm not really sure yet. I said, okay, cool. So they've been dating. So now guy number two, right? The chemistry is great. He doesn't make these physical comments. It kind of seems like the vibe is right. And we've been going on and I'm like, oh man. Now, the only thing is guy number two apparently doesn't have a car. And the only issue is they are struggling to see each other. But let me further the story. We've gone about, I want to say 3 or 4 weeks with both guys now. Guy number one is doing his classic bullshit, but he's still showing up. He's being, he's being consistent. He's showing up. And guy number two, apparently something kind of happened where they were on a FaceTime and, 4 or 5 weeks into it, this, wonderful guy that was so like caring and all this stuff, his flaws started to show up a little bit, right? He was making comments how like if he was to come take a train to see her, that she would have to plan everything because he doesn't want to do that. And he kind of is like almost like not making this effort to come and like make things happen. It's almost like he was great on paper and great over conversation, but when it actually comes to showing up, it doesn't seem like he's doing it. But initially, if she just would have dropped guy one and latched on to guy two, she would have been just only stuck with one. And I guess that's my whole purpose of the story is, and again, I don't know where both of these two things are going to lead. I don't know if she's going to figure things out with guy number two, or if she's going to figure things out with guy number one. There might even be a third guy, to be honest. I always say that too. Like I help a lot of coachees where they are dating a couple different people. And sometimes both of the people that they're dating are not really it. There might be a magical third option that's really not there yet. But that's what I'm trying to say is like, you need to have this self-belief that the right thing is coming for you. And my whole thing is be patient, right? So, cause here's the thing, you don't know how he's going to continue to show up. Like I said, he could be this great guy on paper, but you go 4 weeks in and then he starts to fuck off. And then you start to see his flaws, or his flaws are not really in alignment with your flaws. Or the other way around, which is like, oh shit, I'm spending time with him. I don't have this spark. I don't really know. And then next thing you know, the more that you spend time with him, the more you're spending time with him, you're like, oh shit, actually, wait a minute. He's showing up. Actually, he is more confident than he put off. Actually, he is starting to show up a little bit differently. Maybe he feels more comfortable and now he's actually taking the lead more. You get what I'm saying? So in the dating process, to me, what I'm recognizing is it's so critical. And this is why we don't overcommit ourselves to people. And people came at me for that clip about being patient. And if somebody's not about you right away, then you need to get rid of them. Like, I don't want somebody that's not like super invested in me. But it's like, this is the problem. The problem is if you invest yourself so quickly into somebody within 1 month, you don't know them. You don't know them. So if they're really doing that so fast, it doesn't mean not all that glitters is gold. Not all that fucking glitters is gold. And that's what you need to recognize about life. Because a lot of people talk. Few people walk. And that's why listen, take this to business, even a business relationship, right? I'm looking for a video editor. This guy's trying to sell me a project like $5,000 or some dumb shit. And I'm telling him, I'm like, hey, listen, bro, I love it. But here's the thing. We're going to start slow. We're going to start on one tiny piece. And as we build trust, we'll get there. But I'm not giving you the whole fucking enchilada off the jump. And you should not be doing that in dating either. And this is why. You want to see that people put actions behind their words and even behind the vibe, right? Again, you want to see that, again, even if the vibe isn't like a super high vibe, right? What you're saying is there's no spark. Again, potentially it can grow. Potentially you can build more trust and maybe you do find it more attractive. But the other way around is super true too. Some person you have all this chemistry with, all this energy with, all this vibe with, you get a month or two in and then you start to see the bullshit. And then you start to see the flaws. And I was listening to one of my favorite dating coaches, Jillian Turecki, today. And she was talking about how eventually in every relationship, their true side will come out. It will. You cannot avoid it. Unless they're living a double life entirely, their true self at some point is going to show itself. And guess what? We're all flawed, baby. We're all flawed. Stop. Number one, you're not the problem. Remember that. Well, you are. You're part of the problem, but you're not the whole problem. But everybody, we all have baggage. We all have ways we show up in relationships that are shitty. We're selfish. We do things that are messed up sometimes. And guess what? Some people are good at hiding that at the beginning. Some people lay it all out at the beginning. The whole purpose of this entire rant is this. I think you should give him more time. I think you should spend a little bit more time. Take your time. It's not about an amount of dates. It's about clarity. It's about, okay, I'm spending time with you. When I know for certain, that's when it's time to communicate. When I know, okay, actually this is not working, say something. But if you're in this, I don't really know, don't just get more information. Keep dating. I would say keep dating, keep going. Because you'll get your answer at some point or another. All right. That was my podcast. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. And to be honest, if you ever want to work with me, you know where to find me. I'm really excited for this new phase of my journey, this new chapter. It feels really fucking nice. And honestly, it's a rebirth. And I hope anybody that's going through a tough time right now, you see, first off, a few weeks, you're going to get through some pain, but then it's go time. Then it's get your shit together time. Then it's analyze my needs, find out how I fulfill them, and do it for myself. No one is coming to fucking save you, but you don't need to be saved. Save yourself. And when you save yourself and you generate happiness for yourself, that is when you're going to find the things that you're looking for. I mean, obviously there's a lot of work that you probably need to do in relationships, but that's why I'm here. Hey, coaching. But with that being said, create a beautiful life for yourself. Don't worry. There's great things that are happening for you on the horizon. Have self-compassion. Let go of the guilt. You don't need to hold on to it. You are lovable as you are. We all have flaws. Remember that. It's not all your fault. And you're going to be okay. All right. I'll talk to you guys soon.